Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today we start August the 2nd, 2023. I took a week off. I was so excited to have had a week with my family and having just a wonderful time in Florida. I haven't been out of Colorado in the last 5-6 months that I've lived here, maybe 7 months. I guess I've been here quite a while now. So it was fun to go connect with family, to see my sister, one sister and her two sons. One has a little girl, one's expecting a little girl, and all of the excitement and the joy of welcoming in new life. It's just so beautiful. It's just so priceless to be in the presence of that excitement. At the same time, and this is the power of self-awareness, is to observe how everyone operates in different levels of consciousness. And when we can observe this, where there's zero judgment, there's just an acknowledgement. I live in a 3D world. And as we have studied in teachings, for example, like Dr. David Hawkins in the Power versus Force book, where he lays out a map of consciousness, I actually have Dr. Hawkins' exact map of consciousness because I teach from it. Here's that big drawing. I'll just put it up here for today. So I teach from those who have provided us amazing tools. So I use the tools, and of course, I've created my own charts where I do a combination. I have other charts where I break down the emotional component, not just the belief, the mindset, but also the emotional body, how our physical vessel holds on to emotional trauma. All of that generated by perception. And perception, as we have studied in A Course in Miracles, is a superpower. When we can begin to perceive correctly, we are pulling ourselves out of the egoic trance and we are beginning to see what's really happening here. Now, one of the things that is just so amazing about my journey, that this 20 plus years now that I've been on this journey, is every single time I achieve a new level of expansion for me, I can see more clearly everybody else. Now, when you combine teachings like A Course in Miracles and you realize that we are one, there's nothing else, there is only God. Not just Course in Miracles, you can go to many, many other teachings, ancient texts, information that has been channeled, information that has been inspired, whatever you want to call it. There is oneness. There is one substance, that intelligent, non-physical, loving source of all that is what all of us are made of. And that's what makes us one. We are all made of the exact same substance that desires the exact same thing, expansion. When we contract is because we're going opposite to the movement. Now, there's nothing wrong with contracting because it's possible, because we all have the tools to move through the contractions. We all have the ability to fall into the deepest of despair and arise from that, whether it's this lifetime or another lifetime. All of us are always free to choose again to have experiences. So when I take what I have experienced, when I take what the steps that I have been moving through, because as I look back, I see my journey has been this spiral. I've been moving, I've moved down this spiral as a child. I have been moving up this spiral since the beginning of my I'm going to call it my transition from asleep to beginning the process of awakening. So I apply that lens on all of humanity. So wherever I'm at, I am always observing. I listen to what people say. What they say is always a belief. The belief is always connected to some level of emotional reaction. And it's either going to be a wave emanating in expansion, loving, compassionate, caring, collaborative. It pulls everybody in, Or we emanate this wave, if you want to call it that, of contraction, where misery loves company. We go into our pity party. We go into our woe is me. That's the realm of the victims and the bullies. That's the realm below the line here. And by the line, I mean before awakening, so you're totally asleep, after awakening, when you begin to become self-aware. Now, self-awareness begins to happen here. You don't just go from here and jump up here. You begin to become self-aware. You begin to realize that you're operating in density, and little by little, you want something better. You are being guided. You are being moved into experiencing something that is more expansive. Now, what is that thing that moves us? Well, if we're all made of one substance, guess what it is? It is the God force that wants to expand, and it is the God force that allows the contraction, because the God force, the God source, whatever you want to call it, the God substance is eternal. It is benevolent. It is intelligent. It is holy. It is good. It is beautiful. It is godly. It is gentle, but it allows anything that we want to experience to be experienced. Now, you don't understand this fully until you do enough work to ground yourself in the upper. And, I hate to say words like upper, because there's no up and down. There's no better or lesser. There is just expansion. There's just more that you are able to experience. It's like when you crack a window or crack the door in a room that doesn't have windows, it's very dark, and you open the window or you open the door, there's a little light that comes in. That light is not better or lesser than the light that's outside that hasn't entered the room. So as we open the door, meaning we open our mind to more of God's truth, more of the light comes in. So many people will say, well, I've accessed, higher realms of knowledge because I opened the door and let more light in. Yes, but it doesn't mean it's better or lesser than. That's part of what we have to work through in this journey. So as we become more clear that everybody is an expression of God, expressing a level of how much light is experienced or how little light is experienced. So if you open up the door and you let all of God come in, I've got a class on Monday night. So I call it my spiritual mastery class. These are people who've been studying for a long time. We've been studying specifically teachings from Jesus, Course in Miracles, Course of Love, Way of Mastery now. And this is the last year that I am going to do this with this particular group, because everybody has to expand their awareness of truth. At some point, you have to just be in the world and practice it and experience it. But one of the most important things that we are here to really be able to gauge is that as we open the door to more of God's truth, to more of Source's truth, infinite truth, whatever you want to call it, and this is where the higher you go in consciousness, the less you need to label things, the less you need to be right about anything, because you realize everything is exactly as it should be. Nothing is off. Nothing is not supposed to be exactly how it should be. So as I am in Florida, I'm sitting listening to all these conversations, and I tune into different people speaking. I can see what level of consciousness that they're at. Are they blaming something? Are they in despair about something? Are they feeling humiliated? Are they in anxiety? Every one of those levels in the map of consciousness correspond to emotions that expand or contract us. When we're operating from an expanded place, we are in the high frequencies. We are in the realm of illumination, of bliss, of peace, of collaboration. You could call that enlightenment. You open the door and you let all the light in. You're willing to receive all that is available to you. But when the ego is the one who runs the show, this is our conditioned self. This is who we think we are based on what we have been indoctrinated, conditioned, trained, whatever you want to call it. Again, words don't really matter when you get to the higher levels. What matters is, are you expanded or contracted? Are you experiencing love, or are you in a state of fear? Once you're comfortable, you yourself are comfortable in feeling that in you. And here's another key element: you become honest. It takes a very long time to become honest in this journey. This is a journey where many people, I know myself included, move into this space of believing that we know truth, and then we think we know it all. And of course, at one level, it's all you know here. So you're right. It's all you know here. So you're right. It's all you know here. So you are correct. But what the ego does is it takes what I know and then it assumes I know it all. I have all the answers. I know everything about anything, and it's all, I am right and everybody else is wrong. Well, it's necessary for us to feel like we are right. And I'm listening to my nephews and their spouses, you know, their partners, friends, siblings, my siblings. I had 2 sisters there. And there is a righteousness that comes up in this journey, and it's okay, because we have to ground ourselves in what we think is right and get comfortable with it, because you're moving through a stairway. One of these days, I'm going to ask my friend who created my charts to create one that's actually a spiral, because I want people to see this. It is a cone here, but it's a spiral. We're traveling, expanding through the spiral. These are the levels of the spiral. When you can put them here and you can see where you're at, you see that you're expanding. The analogy that I gave earlier, and some of you that just joined us, thank you for joining us, didn't hear this, so I'm going to repeat it, is that if you take a very dark room without windows and you crack the door, you know, there's light in the hallway or just light outside of that room, maybe it's outside. You open the door, a little light gets in. And then you open the door a little bit more and a little more light gets in. Well, when we start the spiritual journey, when we let a little light in, we think, oh my God, we're seeing it all, because you are seeing more clearly. Light just entered a dark room, and now all of a sudden you can see some things. You open the door a little bit more, meaning allow more consciousness into your mind, allow more truth to infiltrate your level of awareness, begin to become more honest. All of those things begin to give us the experience that we are seeing all the light that is possible, that we're seeing all that is possible there. It takes, as I said, honesty to acknowledge, well, the light is not fully opened. It's not open all the way. So there's more on the other side. That comes with a level of spiritual maturity that has us understand that what is on the other side is the substance, God, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it. All that substance is out there being what it is itself, being God, being love, being intelligent, being just being. We are the little tiny amount that has been allowed in the door. The crack in the door let us have an experience of ourselves. And the ego is, well, then this is all that I'm at. And the soul is saying, no, I came from beyond. I'm all of what you haven't even tapped into yet. Let me take you on a journey to meet all that you are. Let's go out up the spiral. Let's go out the door. Whatever, again, whatever freaking analogy anybody wants to use, it's okay, because it is truly a process by which we expand our awareness of the truth of who we are. Now, there comes a moment on this journey that we have to make a decision. Have I reached the level that I want to go at and explore more? Or am I willing to go on a ride? Am I willing to surrender to what I don't know is beyond, but I am trusting that beyond is the source that is going to take me on this beautiful ride, because it's a benevolent source. So a lot of things have to take place to get us to the point that, number one, we're comfortable with God, because we've been lied to about God. We've been told God is a male on a cloud somewhere deciding if you're naughty or nice, just like Santa Claus. and appears a lot like dad. Wait till dad gets home. You're going to get in trouble when dad gets home, and dad's going to walk in the door. Mom's going to tell him all the bad things you did. And then dad, who thought, you were such a nice little girl or little boy, on his drive to work, now all of a sudden, or on his drive home from work, now all of a sudden hears all these naughty things that you did. And dad goes into his rage. And of course, you're going to get that spanking or get in trouble or lose your allowance or whatever it is that dad is going to do to punish you. Well, we have been indoctrinated into believing these very childish stories about God, about males, about hierarchy, about patriarchy, and about matriarchy. There's a lot that we don't know, but it runs our lives. So moving to a place of spiritual maturity and getting to a place where you do not know all that is possible, but you become curious. That curiosity helps you expand, but the ego goes right along with you. See, the ego keeps opening the door to more and more light. Oh, I'm enlightened. I'm special. I did all of those things. Those were part of the journey. When I observe other people thinking that they've reached the level of awareness, that they know everything, and I can see exactly where they are on this journey, then I'm like, whoa, they're just living out their journey. They're just living out what they wanted to experience. There is absolutely nothing wrong in what anybody does. Everything is absolutely perfect. So back to the point, I'm out there in Florida visiting family. There's the right, through the airports, going there, coming back. There's so many different things that transpire, places to visit, restaurants, and it is fascinating when you can sit back and observe and just listen, the different conversations happening at different levels of consciousness. And I have just this whole week, something's been stirring inside of me, because I like to work with people who are honest. They are absolutely do not want to be right about anything that they believe, because that is where my greatest gains happen. Once I stop needing to be right, and I just begin to feel the consequences of a thought or a belief, and contraction or expansion, the peace or the unease, the chaos, the whatever, anxiety. Once I began to be very clear that I was just going to feel into, am I receiving more of the love that is possible, or am I shutting it down? Am I contracting? Once that decision is made, to me, that is a whole different level of, I'm going to say, advancement, because it becomes a level where you are informed by God. You are no longer listening to the ego mind telling you what to do. You are in a place where you are literally expanding into what God knows. Or you could say God is expanding within you. You're receiving more of what's possible within you. The door has been wide open. In Monday nights, my weekly mastery class, we were just talking about that. One of our lessons is that the doorway to God's truth is only opens up with your desire to know God's truth. But while we are attempting to be right about what we know, we're operating with egoic information. And is it true? Yes, it's always going to be true. Are you in fear? Are you upset? Are you in anxiety? Are you in blame? Are you in guilt? Are you witnessing evil? All of those levels of consciousness are happening. Are they ultimately real in that, do they change what God created? No, they can't. So they have no power over God's creation. They have no power over God for sure. So this journey is a journey about becoming honest enough, humble enough to say, I don't know what anything is for. While at the same time, you do know what's happening around you. So the mind, literally, you begin to split yourself. You begin to feel, when you don't know what anything is for, what does it feel like to have God guide you? The peace that comes with that, the clarity that comes with that, even if it's for a nanosecond, you feel it. You know it's true for you. And then, of course, you go back to what the ego is interpreting, what the ego is believing, and you believe it's true. Yes, they hit my car. the airplane was late, the baby was crying, the whatever was happening. And yeah, you can point at all of those things. And guess what? You are right. In the third dimension, you are absolutely right. No different than when you go into the haunted house in an amusement park and some person jumps out with a chainsaw and scares the crap out of you and you scream. You're right. A person jumped out and it scared you. But if you step back and you go out into outside and you stand in the owner's box for the amusement park and you stand up there on a pedestal and you see the entire amusement park, you know not a single person has been hurt, not a single person has been, nothing has happened to them in terms of you didn't set out to do something mean to them. You just provided an entertainment venue in which they could experience getting scared. Well, that's what planet Earth is. This is an entertainment venue in which we can get scared. And so that the person down at the bottom in the haunted house say, yeah, the chainsaw massacre came out and jumped at me and it scared me. Yes, they had that experience. Did the person at the very top that owns the place say, I didn't scare you. You paid me to come in here and be entertained. I entertained you. You knew what you were getting into. You knew that it was a haunted house. It was supposed to be scary. So I just did my part in giving you a venue to entertain yourself. So let's say God is the one up here saying, I gave you the 3D world. I gave you the ability to forget who you are. You chose to make that your reality. And so you shut the door to other possibilities and you're living inside of a very small idea of what's possible. And you call that right. Somebody on a journey who is willing to move beyond what I know is right. I don't just want to sit here with that. This chainsaw massacre is hurting me. I want to go to find the person who's playing the role. I want to meet the actor who played that role so amazing. I want to see the chainsaw that they got and see that it's made out of plastic. Oh, it couldn't even cut me. It couldn't even hurt me. My goodness, it made really loud noise. So I can begin to see the mechanics of what allows the illusion to be a reality. Well, when you step into the mechanics of it, you begin to lose your fear. So you have your fear because you weren't aware of the mechanics. You begin to lose your fear and gain your probably sense of humor as you begin to understand the mechanics. That's the spiritual journey. The spiritual journey is a process by which we become self-aware, begin to understand the mechanics, what the ego does to scare the crap out of us, and what is of God that was never intended to scare us, was just intended to give us a playground in which we can come and play. And if you want to get scared, well, here's the place you go to get scared. If you want to have a good time, here's the place where you can go and have a good time. And everything in between. That's what an amusement park is. They're only successful when they cover all ranges of entertainment possible inside of that kind of a genre. So as we move through this journey and you become more honest with yourself, you begin to see the projection in other people. Because as you become honest with yourself and you acknowledge, whoa, I was lying to myself that I lived in a scary world and everybody was out to get me with a chainsaw. Then when somebody says that, oh, I live in a scary world, and you know we're all in the same amusement park, then you have an awareness that they are at a level that they haven't understood the mechanics yet. Well, you forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They're playing at the level of consciousness that is possible for them. But then you've got those people who not only understand the mechanics, but then they move beyond the person who plays the role to really understand, why did this person play the role? Where did they come from? What dimension did they exist in that this was so much fun? And they come to planet Earth and they're not going to get lost in the dream of the nightmare. They're going to be a supporting role. They're going to have a part to play. You begin to move beyond the understandings of the mechanics to what makes up this person that plays this role. Because if you then study quantum physics, you realize that they're not even physical. So where did this non-physical energy becomes coalesced in physicality, turns into this person that plays a role that scares the crap out of me because they're acting like a chainsaw massacre. So the more that you get behind the scene, the more that you begin to understand that at the total complete truth is simply a substance that is loving, that is benevolent, that is intelligent, that is forever giving us the opportunity to experience anything and everything we desire. But our desires are always minimized to the level of consciousness that we're at, with a few exceptions. You know, you have this calling to wake up and to know God. There's this little thread in there calling you, but you don't think of it as big of a desire as maybe you desire to have a house, and you desire to have electricity, or you desire to have a job, or you desire to have a partner. Those desires in this realm, in the amusement park, become more important, where those desires to connect with God's source are not as important down here. But as you move and you go behind the scene, you understand the mechanics, you go beyond that, you get into the quantum physics, you don't desire the things of the world as much, because you saw the trick, you see it, it doesn't interest you, but you want to know more about God, where all tricks come from, but never tricks you, which is, an amazing paradox. And you want to move into more alignment with the source that is in everything. When you do that, we go through a period that, for me, it was a time of reflection. I would just sit back and I would observe. There were many, many times with family, with friends, that people would say, my goodness, you hardly said a word, because I was just observing. I was recognizing myself in so many people. The things that upset this person, the things that scared this person, the things that excited this person. I was like, okay, yeah, I've been there, done that. Where was I in my process? So I could begin to become more comfortable within myself. And of course, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. So knowing the levels of consciousness that people are at is just part of what I do, because that allows me to meet them where they're at. And I can only meet them where they're at because I've been there. So as we continue through the teachings of A Course in Miracles, it's called Ascension with A Course in Miracles. So we take these teachings that are so, so pure. I just still have not found anything as pure as the Course to help us understand how do we go from being one with all that is and enter into this dimension, this playground where we're lost and believe that there's really evil, wicked things happening, and that somebody's coming after us with a chainsaw. As this illustration that I'm offering in the amusement park, in the haunted house, that my kids used to love to go, that not all of them, but some of them used to love to go get the crap scared out of them. And they gladly paid their money to go participate in those events. I didn't like that. I always knew, okay, this is all fakery. Why am I going to pay for fakery? I don't want to be scared that way, So that wasn't fun to me. It wasn't amusing. In the beginning, sure, of course, a few times it was amusing. And then after I got it, I didn't want to keep going, but some of my kids kept going. It's almost like a tradition now to go and do that, but they know it's all fun and games. So becoming self-aware by utilizing A Course in Miracles is a pathway to help someone ascend to the higher possible levels of consciousness. Like I said in the earlier analogy, it's like you begin to open the door, you let a little crack of light into that dark room. You illuminate a little bit of the darkness with a little bit of light, and you begin to expand your awareness. And the more that you expand, the more that you become humble, because you realize, oh my gosh, there is so much I do not know. And when we study in this particular lesson that we have been on for a little bit, because you can't rush through A Course in Miracles, this in chapter 30, you begin, it is titled A New Beginning, and we're learning about beyond idols. It's really fascinating. As I sat in Florida and I listened to my family, to friends, to just listen to, like I said, in airplanes, planes, trains, automobiles, whatever it took to get there, you're listening to what they're saying. And my goodness, these lessons came alive. Well, we've been studying over the last couple of weeks. We're in the section titled, it's section number 3 inside of chapter 30, titled Beyond All Idols. And beyond all idols this particular section is just letting us know that the ego makes up idols. We make up idols, the things that are going to make us happy, the things that are going to make us feel complete or whatever. And those who have power over us, those who know better than we do, it's all giving power away. Idols is nothing but giving power away, because you have to give your power away. If you enter to have this experience, let me be clear, to have a 3D experience, to drop into the density of human form, you have to give your power away. This is where you come to feel yourself as disempowered so that you can go through the process, which is very exciting, to go discover your power. So if somebody pays their money to go to the haunted house and they go in there knowing that they are going to experience some fearful things, and they still pay the money, they still go in and they come around the corner, oh my God, they get scared. Well, they're playing the game full out. They need the idols. They need the person dressed up as the person who took the money. They need the person dressed up as the one who's going to scare them. They need the person dressed up as the one who's going to whatever, explain what's going on or help them out or whatever. The power is given to everybody else in that scenario to have the experience of being haunted, of being scared. So when you understand that we have to give our power away to have this experience, then doesn't it make perfect sense? You've got to take your power back. So little by little by little, we move through the various steps in recovering our power. You're afraid of somebody, you're not using your power. If you're afraid of saying what you want to say, you're not using your power. If you're manipulating, you're not using your power. So there are so many different stages to this journey, and they can only be experienced as you progress through a willingness to stop being right about anything. And here's the beautiful thing. It's very easy to be done with being right with the ego if you go to the place of how do I want to feel. If I want to feel scared, give your power away to the chainsaw person. They will scare the crap out of you and you'll have that experience. If you want to experience peace, if you want to experience clarity, you cannot go to your ego to ask questions. You cannot go to your conditioned human self to ask questions. You must go within. And for now, the only aspect of ourselves that is really speaking truth is the body, because the body is not, it's not identified with anything. We are identified as a body, but the body in and of itself doesn't have its own thoughts and emotions and ideas by itself. It holds what we believe and think and feel. So its job is to hold that. But if you go to the body and check in, body, how are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling anxiety. Oh, I gave you anxiety to hold. What was I thinking that caused the anxiety that had me contract and had you hold the anxiety? That is a very, I'm not going to say sophisticated, but that's the only word that's coming to mind, because children do it and they don't have sophisticated thought systems. They just go directly to what needs to be done. They're in touch with their body. They can feel when they're hungry. They can feel when they're cold. They can feel when they got to poop. They can feel when they want to run. My little grandson on this trip many times said, you know, his word is out. He wanted out of the car seat. He wanted out of the stroller. He wanted out of the different places where we were holding him because we were moving from one thing to the other, because he wanted to run. He was in touch. His body needed to burn energy. So what did we do? Wherever we could, we made sure that there was always a window that he could run around. Of course, I had to run around. My daughter had to run around. We're all chasing him. But he's in touch with his body. Quite sophisticated, wouldn't you think, that he knew exactly what he needed to do to express, to exert the energy that was building up inside of him. So as we move through this journey, if we make the honest decision, we got to get really honest that my body doesn't lie, and begin to feel what the body feels. But see, most people don't want to feel what the body feels because we have told our body to hold on to all of these repressed emotions and feelings, and we don't want to feel them. So they're in the body. And then we have discover, because we've been taught all these things. Well, if we numb it, if we put pills in it, if we pour alcohol in it, if we become workaholics, if we just go on this journey, searching, seeking, then I don't have to deal with what's in my body. So my body's holding all of these things, but I don't want to have to look at them. So becoming honest is looking at the body, feeling the feelings that we have, and discovering, oh, I'm upset because of what my sister said to me. Well, did you make your sister an idol? Did you put her on a pedestal above you? Or did you put yourself on a pedestal above her? Because what we're going to begin to see is that the things that upset us about others are the lies that we have been believing and operating from. Well, we're moving from the third dimension to another dimension. Humanity is maturing. We're moving out of playing the games that little kids play, cops and robbers or whatever. We're done playing with army men, because we're graduating to, instead of killing one another on the field, we are literally going to be communicating and collaborating and co-creating something that is for the greater good of all. But to be in the greater good of all, your body vessel, you have to be clear of past trauma, because if you're not clear of your own emotional baggage, you're going to be reacting to other people's emotional baggage, because guess what? They're going to bump into you at the airport. Their luggage is going to hit you. It's going to smack you, because we're all funneling through a small space, and we're all going to be on top of each other's luggage. It's just going to happen. Somebody inevitably is going to open up the overhead compartment and something's going to fall on you. Maybe you're lucky and it's never happened to you. I've experienced that, and it happens. Well, that's the exact same metaphor for the luggage that we are holding on to emotionally, mental baggage that we need to release. Every irritation is an invitation to see your ego's motivation. If you go to the body and you stay in the purity of what you feel, you will discover answers. But you have to get honest. All of the answers that are going to come up have to do with you giving your power away. Plain and simple. You had to give your power away so that you could be scared in the haunted house. You can't go in there knowing, oh yeah, this is not true. Can you imagine how fun it would be to walk around the haunted house with somebody who says, that's not really, oh, that's Billy Bob over there pretending to be the Chainsaw Massacre. Oh, that's Susie over there pretending to be the dead widow coming out of the ground. I'm going to get you. That would be no fun. So we can walk around in this world really having an immersed experience of what it's like to be just a human, if we have other humans telling us what's going on. And those who do try to tell us what's going on, well, they normally get crucified or burnt at the stake or whatever, because we don't want them waking up everybody, because then who's going to pay us to come into the haunted house? So there are so many layers and levels and just aspects to unraveling this entire experience. But those who are willing to go through the maze of their own mind, unravel the game, unravel what's happening, feel the feelings, really get in touch and honestly acknowledge that we've given our power away. And be honest. Who did we give our power away? Well, anybody that you need their approval, you gave your power to. Anybody that you think is necessary to keep you safe, you gave your power to. So whether it's the government or the media or the schooling system or your parents or your brother or your child, it doesn't matter. Anybody that you cannot be totally, completely your natural God-created self, if you cannot just say what comes through you, because it's just moving through you in an innocent way, if you can't do that, then ego is involved, then you have idols, then you've got to look at this. So when we look at beyond all idols, we realize how we have decided basically to say no to everything, to say no to all of the truth and operate with a limited amount of information. So let me read this line. It's such a powerful line in the first paragraph, is that idols are very specific. We have the idol for my favorite musician, and they're the best musician. And they, of course, deserve to have the mansion and the entourage and the money and the venues and the whatever. So we reserve that for that, not for anybody else, but for this special one. I've got a friend just went across to a different state to go see her musician that she idolizes. And of course, whenever these idols go, we're going to suffer, because then that's it. We lost the one idol. This tells us very clearly, idols are limited. It's usually one. You have one favorite musician, you have one favorite movie star, you have one favorite politician, one favorite football player, or whatever it might be. So it goes on to say that idols basically are the beliefs that there are forms, physical things out there that will bring you happiness. And that by limiting, because there's only one, I only need this one amount of money, I only need this one house, I only need this one person, I only need this one politician to make everything okay, I only need this one teacher to let me pass this grade, because it's all limited, is all attained. I only need one. That's it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get this one. Then Course in Miracles says, it is as if you said, I have no need of everything. I got this one. I don't need anything over here. I got this one. I don't need anything over here. This is the right one for me. Everything else doesn't matter. That is how our mind gets conditioned into a very finite a way of looking at the world. We become such a contracted being. This is only the right food that we'll eat. This is only the best restaurant. This is only the right road that I'm going to drive on. This is only the kind of car that I'm going to use. Everything else, we have said, I don't need everything. I only need the one. Well, that's part of the trickery of the ego, so that you idolize whatever that one is for you. And then, of course, we know what happens. Those idols can't meet those expectations, because what? They're all human. They're all in the same amusement park. And of course, the house cannot meet your expectations forever, because it's made in a world of impermanence. So it's going to get old. The ceiling's going to crack. The weather is going to do something. The water is going to come in. The decor is going to be outdated. Well, it was the one in, maybe 20 years ago, excuse me, but today, it's not the one that makes me happy anymore. I need a new house. I need whatever. I need a big house here. I need a little house here. I know I'm experiencing that. I don't need as much room as I needed before. Growing family, just me. And of course, a room for my little grandbaby. So when they come visit Abwe, they have a space where all their toys and all their fun things are. But as we continue through these lessons, we come to the place that understand that the idols that we worship help us feel incomplete. They have it, but I don't. They achieved it, but they have power, but I don't. What can I do about these elections? What can I do about picking, one president? They don't listen to me. So we have so many things that we have been conditioned to believe have power over us, that we idolize, that we make important, and they all have one job, is to make us feel incomplete. Well, here comes the next paragraph. This is in paragraph 5. Completion is the function of God's Son. We are already complete. Accepting our completion is our function. We need to come to the place where we open the door to that dark room. We let all the light in so that we finally can be fully illuminated, meaning we acknowledge if we're in grief, if we're in regret, call it what it is. The spiritual community, I know I have been part of this community. We have attempted to be so spiritual that we don't feel anything, that we don't experience anything. That's part of the process. And then eventually you get honest and you begin to feel what's in your body. For me, this happened probably about 10 years ago. I began to really feel what I was experiencing when my son was going through his drug journey. As he was feeling his pain, I was feeling my pain. I was letting myself really tap into my pain, because it coincided with when I was going through a divorce. And there was pain that I was feeling. I didn't want my son to know about my pain through my divorce. But as he's sharing his pain, why he's taking drugs to numb himself from the pain of his life, I realized it's all the same thing. He's idolizing other things. I'm idolizing my husband. He's idolizing, the teachers to get the grades to be able to have a good life. I'm idolizing my husband for whatever it is that was supposed to provide, or whatever promises were made, expecting that to be held there for him. My son's expecting, even idolizing me, his dad, that these would be the people who would love him no matter what, but he's making mistakes. And all of a sudden they're judging him and they're seeing him as not good enough. So as he's sharing his pain, I realize, oh, I need to share my pain. It's the same pain. It's the same pain of feeling incomplete, needing somebody else to validate us. So Course in Miracles tells us that we were created by the Creator as an expression of love. If we're not feeling love, we then don't know who we are. We are going to go on a journey seeking to find something to make us feel good. And you know, the only reason people pay to go get scared at a haunted house is because we are familiar with being scared. Like that is some kind of a routine. We get scared when we get a medical diagnosis. We get scared when we get bad news that a child got injured in an accident. We get scared when we hear the economy is going. So we are used to getting scared. So to go pay to get scared at the haunted house, isn't that logical? Because the ego is always seeking to validate on the outside what is happening on the inside that we just cannot communicate, because we haven't been taught how to go in and allow our feelings to be pure, share the pure feelings, because we don't want to be judged. We don't want other people to know that we are this scared or this upset or in this much grief or whatever. Or we do the opposite. I'm so much pain. I can't get over this thing that has happened. Yet, when you understand, everybody can get over anything. Do we go through a period of grieving? That's part of the journey. Is the period shorter for somebody who's more self-aware? Absolutely. Because you realize, I'm in the amusement park. Why am I suffering? This is all part of the journey. When you become more aware, then you become one who begins to use your power to co-create something that is always going to be everlasting for all who are participating. That is the bifurcation that we're in the middle of. When I draw the line, there are those who are stuck. And when I say stuck, by choice, because we want to have the human experience in the amusement park, in specifically maybe the haunted house. We are totally asleep, have no idea that we have power. The outside has all power. All the idols outside tell us what to do for the most part. Those who choose to move to that level that Jesus told us that if he could do it, we could do it. Buddha did it. So many have done it. Even in this day and age, many have achieved the bliss, the peace that comes from knowing who you are, an expression of God here to bring love and light to the world. Once you tap into that, you gain a level of joy, a level of peace, a level of comfort that allows you to observe what's happening in this world, in this planet. And you begin to be pulled, because like attracts like, to those who resonate, vibrate at a frequency that are in service to humanity, in service to the greater good. I am just so thrilled. I watch people who have been on this journey, finding their voice, finding their truth, and beginning to use it in a very loving, gentle way, but very firm in the co-creation of something new. To get to that, this new beginning that the Course in Miracles speaks about, we cannot operate idolizing externals. We must come to know not only what God is, where God is, but exactly what the power of God within us, I and the Father being one, means. We have to get clear with that. In paragraph number 6, the first sentence says, nothing that God knows not exists. Nothing that God knows not exists. God does not know of evil. It doesn't exist, not in truth. But in this realm, in this amusement park, it is possible. When we enter into the lower dimensions, meaning our mind contracts and we begin to forget truth and we begin to close the door and get darker and darker inside and have to have more people tell us what to do, more idols, then we have that experience because we are choosing to block the light. The light doesn't go away. We are closing the door to that room. Once you open the door, then what is in that room? Light. God is there, always has been there, but we don't have the ability to experience it because our mind tells us it's not there, because our mind gets conditioned. This is why we have to understand the power of our mind. This is a course in mind training so that we understand how we fall under the illusion that allows us to believe that there's really a haunted house, and we gladly pay money to have the crap scared out of us. Nothing that God knows not exists. So if God doesn't know that, it cannot possibly be, because that which God knows is only love. Its opposite cannot exist, created by God, but it can exist when we block God. So God creates only light. Darkness is the absence of light. If I close all the windows in my office, can I say, well, it's dark in here? Yes, I can say it's dark, but did God create the darkness in my office? No. God created the ability for me to be able to, well, in this case, hire the people who put up the blinds so that I can shut the windows and have darkness. So, and there are some beneficial times to darkness, like when I'm sleeping or when I'm taking a nap. But God did not create darkness, because God cannot create what is opposite to itself. God is light. God is love. It cannot create fear. It cannot create darkness. So as we continue understanding this, we read sentence number 2, and what he knows exists forever, changelessly. So light, love are going to exist forever, whether you are stepping out of the amusement park, out of the 3D world into the bigger playground or not. It doesn't matter if the person who owns the amusement park knows all the different games that are available. If somebody does not want to move from one area to another, you can't force them, and you can't convince them that there's another area, because they're fixed in the one that they're in. I know, I have been to many amusement parks with children, and they get lost and they get stuck in one area and forget that we might have talked about connecting here or there or whatever it might be. And of course, fear grips them because they're seeing only through the eyes of their perception, not remembering the whole plan that we might have created. And then there's even a bigger plan beyond that, which is the one that the owners of the amusement park create to make sure that they can find everybody. So we are having to little by little expand our awareness so that we can begin to see everything as God sees it, which has no opposites, which is changeless forever. For thoughts endure as long as thus the mind that thought of them. All evil, all darkness, all fear, all manipulation, all of this is only going to last until minds believe that. When human minds don't accept this as their reality, guess what? They will be in another dimension of consciousness. Automatically, we mature as a humanity, because those who begin to move here more and more and more, Jesus one at a time, it took a while. But now we got hundreds of thousands of people every year waking up, if not millions, waking up and moving through this process, discovering the truth that they've been lied to. We've all been lied to, that we've been manipulated. It's just part of the game. We don't need to blame anybody. We just need to accept our power and move on to the next dimension, move on and trust God. But the thoughts and the minds that think this, it will not be long before those minds are no longer going to be in operation, because the mind that is trained in higher frequency doesn't think low frequency thoughts. Nobody who knows that we're one is going to go out and steal and hurt and rob. That's not going to happen. So those lower frequency behaviors will disappear in time, but they will disappear the more that we move over here, call them into that, begin the process of forgiveness, begin the process of rehabilitation in a way that is gentle, that is loving, that is not egoic, throw them in solitary confinement. That's God in that being that is there in solitary confinement. Our work is to find out what happened to you. Let us help you, because somebody who does something really dark, their mind is dark. We got to help them unwind the mind, clear up the cobwebs, let the light in. That being that illuminates, whose mind is illuminated with truth, their heart is also going to be illuminated with truth. We are better off helping people remember truth than we are locking them up and basically throwing away the key and thinking that that's going to rehabilitate itself. It's not. It's just going to reincarnate in that low frequency. But you rehabilitate the mind. You open up the body to feel what it really needs to feel. You open up the heart to be compassionate and loving. Everything changes. So those who want that new world, who are in the millions, if not a billion by now, are going to be doing whatever it takes to co-create that. and not interested in these kinds of conversations, because if you want to make that your reality, you're not open to something else. That's why the minds that think that it is possible for there to be a vindictive God or idols, that somebody has power over you, if they're not ready to hear that conversation, they're not ready. You let them play the game, because they paid to play and be in that part of the amusement park, and you let them have it full out. And sentence number 4, and in the mind of God, there is no ending, nor a time in which his thoughts were absent or could suffer change. We are eternal beings. The blip in time that appears in time, that's not really in time, but our experience in time, that happens in all of creation, is just a temporary entering into the amusement park and going to the haunted house. And you can, once you realize, oh, there's a door out, wait a second, there's a door, I don't even have to come in. That's really when you're really understanding the game. You don't have to choose that amusement park. Then you realize that you have an entire universe of infinite possibilities, that there is no limit to all that we can experience. And we've been experiencing this tiny little blip called planet Earth. Nothing wrong with planet Earth. She's a beautiful being. She's God itself expressed in that way. But we don't have to experience planet Earth with darkness. We can just let the light in. But we have to let the light in, illuminate our mind, see where we have been conditioned to give our power away, all these idols, come back to meet with God inside, forget the God on the cloud and meet the God in the heart. And once we enter into that place and we connect, we align with God inside, my goodness, you become transformed. You absolutely, and those of you who've been doing this work, you know what I'm talking about. So sentence number 5 says, thoughts are not born and cannot die. They share the attributes of their creator, nor have they a separate life apart from his. So it's the thoughts that we have. Just because you stop thinking, because you die, your thoughts are going to go with you. They belong to you. They are part of who you are. So if you are done with feeling humiliated, if you're done with shame and being miserable and vindictiveness and evil, once you're done with that, those thoughts are complete in their journey, because it's not like they're a starting point and an ending point for that thought. You are the starting point that gives that permission to be an experience. And once you are complete, they're done. They are complete. So the thoughts that you think are in your mind, as you are in the mind, which thought of you, so you are in God's mind. God thought of you into creation, wanted a loving being that would extend love. In your mind, you think thoughts that collapse you from that reality and make you think you're separate from God, you're all alone, you're not good enough. Well, once you stop thinking those thoughts, you're going to be automatically in the mind of thought, who knows you to be an expanded being, one who is here to be a bringer of love and light. Stop thinking your thoughts. You will automatically be in God's mind. Stop thinking that all there is this haunted house. You will automatically be in the amusement park. And if you continue the journey, you'll realize that not only are you in the amusement park, you're on the planet that holds the amusement park. You're in the universe that holds the planet, that holds the amusement park, that holds the haunted house. Do you want to be that small and contracted and let this be your only experience? Or do you want to expand and find more realms that you can play in? Because they are available to us in a world where God is a creator that is infinite. It doesn't have an end. It doesn't change. It is forever love and light. And so there are no separate parts in what exists within God's mind. It is forever one, eternally united and at peace. That is a powerful statement that, we're only going to have a few minutes to touch on that. But when we realize that we're in God's mind, that we are in this multiverse that has no end, we are all going to be one, feeling the substance, knowing that we are all made of the exact same potential, the exact same attributes, every single one of us made of light. When we get to the place that we are no longer dilly-dallying with the local, human stuff, of paying bills, of doing whatever you need to do to get by, and you begin to expand your mind, and you are being informed by God, and you're allowing your every step, your every move, your every thought to be inspired by love, everything changes. Your priorities change. You are not going to be focused on the minutia of life. You're going to be focused on how to be in service to the greater good. It's just the way it happens. Go to any person has achieved that. You will see the trajectory towards that level of love and concern and care for all beings is because there is a knowingness of our oneness. Can't condemn the ones who crucify you. Can't blame and judge the ones who set you afire, if that's the way that you end up, as we burned so many witches at the stake, so many beings that knew. Once you realize the connection to all that is, you literally are free to recognize that you can send love to all beings. You don't need to idolize anything at this level, at this level, at this level, at this level. You go directly to the source, and it tells you right in here, the thoughts that you think are in your mind, as you are in the mind of God who thought you. When we get comfortable enough with becoming self-aware, and we let go of the minutia, the egoic thinking of selfishness, of greed, of jealousy, of vindictiveness, of guilt, of shame, when we stop entertaining those thoughts, because we come to know the truth of who we are. Of course, you have to have done the work of purifying your mind, body, and spirit. You have to do that work, mind, body, emotions. You have to do that work. Then you realize that you're in the mind of God. You realize you didn't create yourself. What created you? And you come to humble yourself. You come into surrender to that power that created you, and you realize that its intention was always benevolent. Its intention was always good. We call God God because we're just shortening the word good. It's really good. It's just good, plain good. It's goodness. It's loving. It's gentle. It's pure. When you understand that, then you realize that you cannot be separate from anybody else, because God didn't create this separate amusement park over here, the separate amusement park over here. It just gave us this one massive amusement for all of us to come and play. For many to forget who we are, to go through the journey of finding ourselves, of returning to the source, for many to come and be of service and assistance to those who need to find their way home. That's why we are so supported. We've been receiving guidance information forever. You can go back to the ancient texts, and there was always somebody receiving information from a star, from a being, from a whatever it is. We are so beloved. We are so absolutely loved and supported. Do you love and support yourself enough to let go of all of the thoughts that limit you, all of the thoughts that are not true? This requires an incredible amount of courage to admit that maybe you are not right about everything, that maybe you don't know it all. That is very uncomfortable to the ego that has been trained into thinking that being right and knowing it all is what makes you somebody important and special. And we've been idolizing those who have the degrees or have the awareness or have the New York Times bestseller. Oh, they know it all. And they know more than I do. Well, if you move through all of that, if you stop going to anybody outside, including me, and you move to where all these truths are pointing, they should all point you inside, because that is where God resides. If you want to call it that, you can call it, I've called it many things. You can call it Buddha, you can call it Bambi, you can call it Baba, you can call it blah. It does not matter what you call it. It is an eternal flame burning within every one of us, because it's an eternal force, power, source that is never going to be extinguished. Our work is, do we want to let it light us up, or do we want to live in the shadows of it? And it's okay, because we are so loved that we're given permission to play with this in any way that we want to. But at no time ever will anybody, anything, any leader, any being from another planet, UFO, whatever you want to call it, that we're talking about so much now in the media, will ever, ever, ever dim the light that is God. You can access it if you want to or not, totally up to you. But when you begin to do this work and you begin to get honest and you begin to move beyond your limited sense of self, you cannot help but land in your expanded true essence. And it is loving. It's just the way that it is, because it is connected to all else that is loving. Hope you enjoyed this transmission today. It's just so much fun to come in here and share whatever comes through me. It's never premeditated. I just come in service, and I leave just so touched by these words that, anyways, thank you so much for being here. I saw some of you coming in, going throughout the call. I know people's lives are busy. I'm just so grateful that you made the time. So if you enjoy this, share it with others and let's spread the word. Thank you all so much. I love you all, and see you next week on Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern time, always noon. And there we go. Bye, everybody.